What is going on, Chaotix? It is your boy Chaos here, and we are back with the Tips and Tricks to Draft League series. Give me a sec, I got a cough. Sorry. But we are back with the Tips and Tricks for Draft League series. You guys have wanted to see more of this series. You wanted to see more things that I had to say about the league, and so on and so forth. So, I'm back. We're going to be talking about Pokemon roles today. So, roles are very important. When building a team, they really establish what each Pokemon on your squad is going to be capable of doing, what they're going to be useful for, and hopefully how they're going to help you win the battle. Now, I am on Smogon in the Ultra Sun and Moon resource page forum, where Curry has given us a nice thread of some visual stuff of the OU metagame. So this is going to be our basic formula for going through this. If I can think of anything else outside of it, I will add it in. But as for now, it's pretty simple to go through this, and it's easier to do it. So let's start off by looking at these different categories. So the Mega Pokemon, I'm not going to really talk about because that's really not a role that you really have to worry about. You just have to know that you only have one Mega slot on your team. So that's the thing. But here we go. The top of the page, we got Wall Breakers. So these Pokemon are meant to come in and take out Pokemon that like to be defensive or just sit in your path, known as defensive walls. Hence why they're called Wall Breakers. We'll get to walls in a minute. But Wall Breakers are very powerful Pokemon, either offensively on the physical side or the special side. Some of them can be mixed, but most of the time they're either physical or special. And they can put in a lot of work to destroy an opponent's defensive walls, so that way your other Pokemon, like your sweepers, can get through and do a bunch of stuff like that. So we got some wall breakers, some of the notable ones here to look at. You got Mega Charizard X, Garchomp, Kartana's up there, Landorus T can be a wall breaker, Mamoswine's very powerful, Mega Pinsir, Mega Swampert, Victini even, Dragonite's on that page as well. So there's some really cool physical ones. Special ones, you got Alakazam, Mega Alakazam, Charizard Y, Latios, Victini again can be both Thundurus, Tapu Koko and Lele, Tornadus, Volcarona, Gengar's on that list. So there's a bunch of different things that can be run as a special wall breaker as well. And then you have a few things that run mixed, like Greninja, Diancie, Kommo-o. There's just a few things you can run there. Wall breakers are really nice to have on a team, especially if you have someone, if you're going to go up against a defensive core, because these wall breakers can be able to plow through teams. Now, often you would want one of each on your squad. You want an offensive wall breaker that's physical and one that's special, but sometimes a mixed one can work for both. It just depends on what your team needs. And if you want to look at how to build a team, go back to the previous episodes where I talk about drafting a team and team building. Those two are really good ones for understanding how to build your team. Next up, we got Stall Breakers, and these Pokemon are basically set up here to come in and destroy the stall. So a lot of teams like to run stall to stall out mons, especially big threats, or big threats like defensive threats. So you can't set up with Blissey or something and just sit there and eat attacks over and over again and just use recover or whatever the other egg move is that I can't think of. That's a heal move. Soft Boil, that one. So these Pokemon are set up, usually Taunt or set up is one of the two ways you can do this. So Taunt is very common, and those definitely seen on things like Gliscor. Gliscor is one of the best examples of this. Gengar also is really used for this role too, since it's really fast. Mega Sableye runs this set well as well. And you have the setup based Pokemon. These Pokemon just set up in the face of stall Pokemon. So they'll sit there and they'll look like Leech Seed or something on you. You can just set up like Mega Gyarados with Dragon Dance, or Lando with Sword Stance, Manaphy with Tail Glow. You know, you use one of the setup moves that the Pokemon has, and you just go ham. Because they can't stop you at that point. Because if you get, honestly, if you look at it and you get some of these Pokemon like +2 or +3, they're going to wreck through the entire squad regardless of what they are, as long as they have a move that is effective on them. And there is a very important note here on this, so I'm going to read it. Just because Pokemon are listed as stall breakers does not mean your team will be able to break a stall 100% of the time. These Pokemon have the ability to really carve into a stall Pokemon, but still require support to do so. You can't just slap them on and call it a day versus the stall. So it's very important when you're facing the stall to play your cards correctly, because if you don't, you can have an issue. Gliscor is a really good stall breaker, both because it does run taunt and it can be a setup stall breaker, but also because if you give it Poison Heal, it has an immunity to Toxic. So that's something that a lot of people do run, and it's a great way to break some stalls. Next up, we got the Wall. So these things are going to be your defensive Pokemon that are going to sit here and just destroy teams and take them on. Very good for defensive Pokemon. Walls are very important to have on a team because they can stave some hits that would be happening throughout the match and get you some nice Pokemon in, or even get some chip damage on something that needs to be taken down, like another wall on the other team. Common ones to note here are Celesteela. Garchomp actually is a physical wall, which is awesome. Mega Venusaur is a big wall, both physically and mixed. Can also be a little bit of special, but not really. Suicune is very tanky as well. Mega Aggron gets on this list. Mew can be defensive. Landorus T can be really a defensive Pokemon. Ice is really good against it, though. Tangrowth is really bulky as well. Especially defensive. You got things like Chansey in this, Magearna, Jirachi. Those can be especially defensive walls. Jirachi also can be a little bit more physical too, but it's more susceptible to like ground type moves if it is a physical wall. You have mixed people. Ferroseed. I mean, Ferrothorn is probably one of the best examples of a mixed wall. It does really well against pretty much everything, and I mean, fire is gonna be good, but pretty much everything else it's gonna be taking on no problemo there. And then you have our pivots. So you have two sets of pivots. You can do offensive or defensive pivots. And what pivots do is they give you momentum into the game, which is very important. Because if you set up, what you want to be able to do is predict your opponent. So if I bring in, let's see, give me an offensive pivot. If I bring in my Mega Manectric, right? And my opponent has, that's about it. If I bring in my Landorus and my opponent has on the field like a steel type, so my opponent has a Heatran on the field, he's going to think I can go for Earthquake, and he's most likely going to switch out to something that's going to be able to take that Earthquake. But if I predict that, I can run U-turn, and I can switch my Landorus out and get my other Pokemon in that's going to be better for that matchup with that flying type, or with the Pokemon with Levitate, or whatever's going to be coming in on the Landorus. And U-turn really helps out, especially since a lot of the Levitate Pokemon that are going to be resistant and immune to ground type attacks, they're going to be weak to the U-turn, and so that's a thing they can do. So with the pivots, you have things like Greninja is a pretty good one to use. As I mentioned, Landorus T is good. Jirachi can run some of those things. The Rotom forms usually use Volt Switch. It's usually one of their moves. Victini is very good at using the switch, especially if you want to like Choice Bandit or something like that. Mega Manectric is also on that list. Be careful with, I think it does get Volt Switch and U-turn, so be careful with the Volt Switches because ground types are common. You got defensive ones. Alola Mola is a really good defensive pivot in there. You can run Lando that way as well. T-Tar is in that. Toxapex. Zapdos is a really good defensive pivot as well. So just running some of these defensive things, it can really help out. And you might notice as we're going through this list, we got some things that can overlap. Like obviously, Gliscor can both be a stall breaker and a wall and a pivot. So Pokemon that fill more than one niche are really good to have on the Draft League team because you can use them for multiple things. And you also can bring them different weeks for different things. So maybe one week I bring my stall breaker Gliscor because I know he's going to set up, he's going to have a chance, he's going to try to stall me out. One week I might bring my pivot because I know he's going to try, he's got a lot of Pokemon that's got Levitate or Flying types, and he's going to try to bait me into those Earthquakes with his Steel type, and I can just U-turn out and get the momentum. So a lot of Pokemon can run multiple different things, so it's really good to grab those things because they can do a lot of different roles, and having Pokemon that can do multiple roles on your team is really valuable because you can make your team a little bit more unpredictable with what you're bringing. Next we got Clerics, and these are very good to heal up your team. These are not as important in my opinion, but they are really nice to have, especially if you're going to rely on something taking a bunch of hits and then getting out of there, because you want to have that Pokemon back up to full health. So Heal Bell, Wish, Aromatherapy, Healing Wish, and Lunar Dance are things that work here. I would be careful about running Healing Wish or Lunar Dance unless you're absolutely certain that you don't want the Pokemon that you're using as the Cleric anymore, because that will destroy your team. Some of the best Wish users are going to be obviously Chansey, Alola-Mola, Clefable, Jirachi, and Omega Latias. Chansey and Clefable are really good ones for the Clerics. Another good one that's not on this list, Florges is pretty nice to have, or I think Dragalge might be even a decent one at best. So those are really cool Pokemon that you can run that way too. And also, Comfey is a really good Cleric as well that you can run. One very important thing about any competitive battle is entry hazards. So entry hazards are really good to get some nice chip damage or slow down your opponent when they come into the game, or even give them toxic. So some common entry hazards: Stealth Rock, Spikes, Toxic Spike, and Sticky Webs. And you have things that are going to set up Stealth Rocks. Pretty much every rock or ground or steel type is going to get Stealth Rocks, so it's just depending on what you want. Here, notable ones that seem to work pretty well. Ferrothorn's a good one. Mega Diancie is a good one. Chansey's pretty nice at doing it as well. Skarmory is going to be your main bet if you're going to set up Stealth Rocks or Spikes. Ferrothorn's also good at Spikes, and you can use Spikes and Toxic Spikes on Greninja, because if you have Protean, it will switch the typing, so it's a great way to play around with that. So maybe if they're going to use a Water type move, you want to make your Greninja Water type. But if they're going to use like a Psychic type move, you want to keep the Dark typing. So you can really mess around with the types there with Greninja. But you also, like, if they're going to use something that's, like, if you're going to use a Fairy type move, you might want to use Toxic Spike, so that way it's not that effective. So something like that would be great. Then you have the Sticky Webs, and it is important to know that Sticky Webs are pretty niche. They're really not going to do much for you. They just slow people down. Although slowing people down is a really nice way to run a strategy, but it's very, very risky, because if you do not get the webs up, your whole strategy pretty much gets thrown out the window, and you have to be able to compromise with that. So some of the best ones, I'm going to throw Galvantula onto this list as well. So Arachnid, Ribombee, and Galvantula are some of the best ones. So they're really good. Speaking of Galvantula and Ribombee, we're going to go to Suicide Leads now, and these Pokemon, what they do is they come in, they start a match, and they usually get rocks, they get webs, they get spikes, they get something on the field, or they nuke something, and they leave, and they pretty much are there just to die. Pretty much, that's why they're called Suicide Leads. Again, all the Pokemon that were Sticky Web users are on this list because they're very niche. Galvantula is one of the biggest culprits of this, because it just comes in and you throw webs up and it pretty much dies to anything. So it depends. Lando can be a Suicide Lead, although it's most likely probably not going to be one. But you can run it that way. And Suicide Leads are not the best for Draft League at all, because you're automatically giving your opponent a 5-6 head start on you, so they have one more Mon than you do. But, I mean, that's easily overcome, but you just got to be careful with how you do it. And here's one of the best roles to have on a team, is a hazard removal or prevention. Hazards are going to be coming in Draft League, especially. They're going to be able to chip down your team. Usually rocks are the most common ones, so it's nice to have ways to get rid of those. So Rapid Spin's obviously really good. Blastoise is good for this as well. But with Rapid Spin, you got to be careful of ghost types. You got things like Excadrill and Avalugg in there too. Defog is really nice. I don't like Defog as much as Rapid Spin, because Defog gets rid of all entry hazards. Rapid Spin only gets rid of the ones on your side of the field. So just remember that when you are using Defog. Gliscor is going to be one that uses this a lot. Lando is going to be in there for this. The Tapu Koko and Tapu Lele are good at this. Zapdos usually runs Defog. Moltres, Skarmory, Volcarona and Hydreigon typically are some of the things you're going to see running this set. And then Magic Bounce, of course, Diancie and Mega Sableye are going to be the two Pokemon. Mega Diancie and Mega Sableye are going to be the two Pokemon in this that typically run these because that's their ability. And Mega Sableye can be a pain in the butt, especially if you get it off before they set up. So, and since it's really a good Pokemon in general, it's just difficult to get rid of because it has such a great type. So, yeah. Get rid of the Sableye before you start setting up hazards, because Magic Bounce is going to be a pain in the butt. You don't want to deal with it. Next up, we got Choice Band users, and Choice Specs and Choice Scarf users. So these are really important because Pokemon that can run the Choice role really have a power to give to your team. Wall breakers are important, as I've said, and giving someone a choice item makes them a good wall breaker candidate. So we got things on the physical side, most likely like Kartana, Weavile, because Weavile is fast. Victini, you can even run a Azumarill Choice Band because you're probably not going to get a Belly Drum up, so that's nice. And Dragonite also is a really good one as well. For Scarf, not for Specs, some of the good ones you're going to see. Gengar is really solid at this. Hydreigon is good Specs user. I'm going to throw back Border on this list as well. It proved really decent in the last season, so that's something to note. So there's some good Specs users. Scarf users, these Pokemon are going to be outspeeding everything. So Ditto obviously is a common one with Scarf. The Rotom forms make use of this as well. Anything with Trick is nice. Jirachi can be at any of these three, but typically Scarf is where you're going to see it. And you got to be careful with what the speed tiers are. Most times, if you're wanting to Band or Scarf or Spec something, you're going to want it to be at least 100 speed, because you're going to want it to outspeed most of the metagame. And if it doesn't outspeed the metagame, you're going to probably be in for a hard time to get things done. So Jirachi actually hits the 100 mark, so you can use it. Victini's also 100, so it's nice to have there. But most of those Pokemon are going to be the Specs. They're going to be the Scarf users because they are not going to be that fast, and you're going to want them to take out things on the other end. So one of the sets for Jirachi, for instance, you can make it a minus speed nature with a boosted attack or boosted special attack, and you can just run special or physical moves and run a Scarf, and you don't have to invest anything into the speed stat at all. And then you got the fast things that are going to work really well with like Specs or Bands, and Greninja's a really good one with Specs. Coco's nice with Specs. Weavile is really good with Band because it is super fast, so that's a thing. We got Trappers on this list. Trappers aren't really that important. They're nice to like trap things in, but you got Pursuit, Magmapult, Magma Storm, or Whirlpool, or something like that. These are not important, so if you want to look at those Pokemon, they're there. But typically, trapping is not the best way to do it. Most of the time, it's Pursuit if you're going to do anything, and that's pretty much any Dark type. So you just gotta look at that when you're going into a match. Just make sure you see who has Pursuit or stuff. And priority users are some of the best ones to have. Get priority, anything that has a +2 or +1 priority is great. Fake Out is common one. Bullet Punch is in there. Extreme Speed is really a good one that you can see out there. So with that, especially with Dragonite, it's really good. Sucker Punch, nice to have. Ice Shard, something quick attack might be seen, probably not, but it is there. Shadow Sneak is also something that is there as well. Moving on, you got Setup Sweepers. Now these are really important because these can play as wall breakers too. They can play on the offensive side, or they can play the speed tiers. So Swords Dance is one of the most common offensive ones. If you're going to be offensive on the squad, you're going to see this most likely on Gallade, something like that. Hawlucha runs it a lot. Lando runs it if it's going to be offensive. You're definitely going to see Mimikyu have this move because it'll take the one turn it has of Disguise and just set up on you. So that is a thing. Dragon Dance is really scary, and most Dragon type Pokemon get this. So You boost your speed and boost your speed and attack. So by one stage, it's really good to set up on Pokemon. If you get 2 Dragon Dances up on most of these Pokemon, you're probably going to be able to sweep the entire team. So common ones, Charizard X, Gyarados or Mega Gyarados, and Dragonite ones is pretty well as well. Calm Mind is nice, boosting both special attack and special defense. You're going to definitely see this on Pokemon like Magearna, maybe Shiftgear or something else. Instead, Suicune runs this really nicely as well, and Alakazam, if you get the right switch in on it, definitely Calm Mind is something you want. Nasty Plot is a good one to boost your special attack up by a couple stages. Mew is going to be using this, Thundurus is going to be using this. If you have come across a Mismagius, definitely it has Nasty Plot on it most likely, so watch out for that. Agility and Rock Polish, so speed boosting things, they're going to be very common to see. Again, Magearna is most likely going to run Shiftgear, so that's a pain in your butt, boosting your speed stat 2 stages and your attack 1. It's going to make this Pokemon absolutely busted. And then Soul Heart, yeah, it's good. It's good. I'm going to say that, it's good. And you have abilities that also boost your speed. Beast Boost, obviously, for the Ultra Beast is going to be something to note. It boosts the highest stat by 1 stage. So very good for things like Celesteela that's want to boost its defenses, or Kartana that wants to boost its attack or speed. Those things like that. You got Tail Glow and Manaphy, which is absolutely scary because 3 stages is... Anything that boosts something 3 stages is... Oh. Wow. It's a pain in the butt. Power Up Punch is something. Moxie getting kills. Soul Heart, obviously, for Magearna is being a pain in the butt. Quiver Dance is a fun one for most bug types, so Ribombee and Volcarona tend to run that. You gotta watch out for some Z moves, though. If you are not in a draft league that does not use offensive only Z moves, then Z moves can be a problem, because if you use Z Rain Dance with Manaphy, you're gonna pretty much be in trouble. So you gotta watch out for the Z setups as well. Trick Room users are another thing to have on the squad. You got the setters, typically slower things like Uniclus is a big one for Trick Room to set up. Cresselia also does it well. I'd like to use Jirachi for Trick Room setups. It seems to work really well, and you also, again, with a negative speed nature, it can help out a little bit there. And then you got abusers, Pokemon that are really slow that use it really well. Marowak, obviously, big one that uses it super well. Stakataka is extremely slow and really can use the Trick Room. And obviously, if you're ever going to want to use a Mega Camera Up, definitely use Trick Room, because it's going to be a pain in the butt otherwise. Trick Room also is considered niche, just like Sticky Webs were, hence all setters and most abusers are considered niche options. Although Trick Room is kind of interesting if you come against a speedy team, because they will not know how to handle themselves because they'll be slower than you, so it'll be great. So if you want to use that to your advantage, if someone's got like a Mega Aerodactyl or something like that, Trick Room might be your friend. Then you have Weather. Now Weather is most likely the thing on this list that's not going to be seen as often as anything else. It's very niche if it comes out. Most of the time it's Rain or Sand, or it's someone's ability. So, big one for Rain is going to be Pelipper. Politoed also runs this really well because they both have Drizzle as their abilities. Manaphy is going to set it up most likely with a Z move. Swampert's most likely going to use it for Swift Swim. So water types are going to be the ones you see with this. And Zapdos likes it because it can abuse Thunder. So that's the thing. Also, I used a Tapu Koko on a Rain team before that had Thunder on it, so it would hit all the time and be really powerful. So that's also a thing to note. Sand teams, you also got those in here. So things that automatically set up sand, like Hippowdon or Tyranitar, are going to be on the set, and then things that take advantage of it, most likely like Excadrill or Garchomp or something like that, with one of like Sand Force or something like that, that can really put in some speed work for your team. Sun most likely only comes if you're going to run a Charizard Y, because its Drought ability, and Hail usually only comes with Alolan Ninetales, but you can set up Aurora Veil with Ninetales, so that's really nice. A great way to go there. So, yeah, Venusaur also could be a Sun, but that's all really he has for this list. I'm trying to think of big things that I need to mention, if anything at all. So, we got Megas, we got Wall Breakers, we got Stall Breakers, we got Walls, Pivots, clerics, entry, suicide leads, hazard removal, choice, setup sweepers, trick room, and weather. I don't really know if there's anything else I want to cover with roles. Just make sure you check out what Pokemon runs what option on your team, what they're going to be useful for, and try to find things that work in multiple categories. So obviously, like, Gliscor is a really good one. It's why it's higher up in the tiers. It's like a tier 2 Pokemon, even though it doesn't have the best stats. It runs multiple things, and that's why it gets higher up in the tiers. So you want to find something that can run multiple options, run multiple different variables, and really can put in the work for your team. Stalls are another thing that's not really on this, but you do have stall breakers. So, but stalls are pretty much similar to the defensive Pokemon like the balls that we saw here. These Pokemon all have some ways to stall you out. They can toxic, they can like rest, they can recover. Most of these Pokemon got ways to stall you out as well. So walls are most likely going to be stally Pokemon as well. So you just gotta watch out for those. Mega Venusaur is one of the biggest culprits in this because it has a really good typing and it has a really good ability that gets rid of fire and ice type weaknesses. So it's very hard to find a Pokemon that's one going to be powerful enough to take out a Venusaur and also live a hit, because you're probably going to have to two-shot the Venusaur. So very good wall Pokemon in that. But I think I have covered everything I want to cover in this video, so let me know if you have any other roles that I should have covered. I will cover them in the comment section down below, so make sure you check that out. Also, leave a like if you did enjoy this video. Also, subscribe if you want to see more content from me, including the 3 series we are running, the Red Rescue Team, Platinum Extreme Randomizer Nuzlocke, and our Pixelmon Let's Play. Let me see you in those premieres. They will be premiering every day at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, except for Sunday, which is at 1 p.m. So definitely check all those things out, and I will see you guys in the next video. So until then, my name is Chaos. I am signing off. Stay safe, and as always, burn it up.